The following is a series of candid conversations. The content is intended for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for seeking help from a mental health care professional. To learn more info regarding additional disclaimers, privacy policies, and terms and conditions, please visit hellodrtami.com.
Bonjour, hello, this is Dr. Tami, your host of PsychologistSay, a podcast where we create conversations about everyday life from a clinical psychologist perspective. I'm joined today by my producer, Rob Jollie, and we'll be talking about workplace toxicity and the impact it has on our mental health. And trust me, we have a lot to talk about. This is an area where we spend a lot of time. Let's dive right in. Relate to what you were just saying.
So no, I can totally go back to that. Just like, going into work and just hating it because, I'm stagnating. But then, like something happened the other day. I asked myself the question, I was like, does it suck at work because of me? I'm showing up expecting more from them and I'm taking it out on them. And what I really want is for myself to be in a different position. So what I did was like, I just stopped, I'm showing up and doing my job. I'm doing what they're asking me to do, but also, I'm looking for different avenues to possibly take my profession in, not necessarily my own business, because my own business is completely different than what I do for a living.
What I think I was hearing you say was, that you had a beautiful insight. And this is when I talk about accountability, and it is knowing that we are in a certain situation that we are choosing to be in, whether we need the money, whether we need the relationship, whether we need the house, whatever we're doing, we're there because it's feeding something that we need. And so for you to have the insight to go, well, I'm somehow trying to take it out on them because I'm trying to do better. I'm asking for more. I'm not saying I have to be, promoted, or I'm trying to seek out being more intellectually stimulated or creative in a environment that's more of a style that's on the rules and regulations.
Yeah.
There's a way to do things, and your personality or people with your personality it's almost like you're probably speaking to so many people listening to this episode, is your personality is not in line with their organizational style.
Right.
And so what you're starting to feel is the impact of being in an environment that goes against the way inherently you want to be. And so eventually we start to become physically ill in that environment, psychologically depleted. And then without us being able to discern this and know this, that this is going on, we could get really toxic in an environment that's not toxic. It's their structure. They're doing this because that's the way they do things. And most people like to say, well, I'm in a toxic working. But what I heard you say was, oh my gosh, after a while, I started to think, am I kind of the toxic person in a work environment where others are functioning, but I'm bringing this energy in?
Right. It's something that I've been trying to do for myself, looking at the situation, like you said, I identified it as a toxic work environment, but trying to be responsible, I asked myself, am I bringing the toxicity to this environment? And, it turned out that I really was. I was angry. I was angry things weren't working my way. And,
right. And that you weren't getting you weren't being rewarded for having what you said, initiative to say, well, can I do this? Can I add, can I, and you weren't being rewarded for that. So instead of kind of like initially you said, I just started to show up kind of being a jerk. I wasn't happy. I didn't look forward to going to work. I showed up with whatever energy. I didn't feel like I was utilized. So you're right. You became a person that was very unhappy in their position. And so I think probably so many people can relate to this. And yet that doesn't mean you're in a toxic work environment, but it
Right.
could mean you're bringing toxicity to that environment.
Right. Put yourself in your coworker's shoes. Like, are they saying work sucks because of you? I was saying it, not necessarily because of my coworkers, but the work sucked.
Yeah.
And these people are working there. Like, did they show up to make it worse for me? Probably not.
Mhm.
But am I showing up and making their day worse? Probably, because of the way I feel. And
That's yes.
I
Okay.
and like it's just covering my bases. If someone asks them, how do you like working? Well, they can't necessarily say that it's my fault, because I'm trying my best and I'm showing up and trying to make it better for them, and trying to be more considerate to my environment. You know,
And I think for people listening, it's really is a balancing act of uh, knowing that our personality may not match the work environment. And are you able to? We're not able to just fully change who we are. I mean, that's if we could do that, we'd all be getting along. We'd all be staying in relationships. If we could just change and be the person our other people want us to be, we can only soften and work on improving strengths and weaknesses. If we're a square where it can round out the edge, we can't become a full circle. So I think this is where in our culture, we kind of think we're a circle and we're trying to fit into a square, and we can't fully get there. And so this is where we without knowing this, we start to blame the environment, we start to blame management, we start whatever it is. And instead of going, gosh, I'm a circle and I'm in an institution that follows a square model, what do I need to do now? Do I just say, well, I have to stay here? Do I, make positive, just try to improve and be positive and think positive and just, yet that's where we got to really ask yourself, because it does matter that people are in whatever area that does fit them and feeds them. They may not get everything they want, yet if it's a key thing where it's not a fit, it's kind of like being in a bad relationship and you're trying to just force this connection that just is not working, and you feel it, and it's impacting the other and the other. And so it's about being balancing, being okay with the type of person you are, and then knowing that maybe the organization or the type of work you're doing doesn't fit you, and trying to make that work may be one option. I don't think it's the long term goal.
right? No, I'm doing my best in the system that I'm working in.
There you go.
And they're expecting the best out of me. That's what they're expecting. And I
Right.
want to be able to do it for them, while also, if an opportunity comes up that's better, they're going to be worried now because I am their best person. But this opportunity came up,
Mhm.
then they're going to have to realize that maybe they're not doing the best for me. But I'm not creating a situation where they're going to be like, good, go. We don't want you here. You can
Well,
be,
and
uh,
and really, I think that's about that really is a that's an integrity move of and that's where I think maybe a lot of people are in that, where it's kind of an option now of how am I going to handle this? Am I going to give in and give into this unhappiness, or that I'm unfulfilled, or that I'm not, or do I have the ability to rise up and do the best I can do in this circumstance while trying to look for a better fit for myself? And that's integrity, that's accountability, that's where it's like I'm not doing anybody any favors by coming in and doing a job to not the best of my ability and being somehow angry at them and taking home a paycheck.
Right.
Yikes.
That's like you were saying, like in the long run, you know, it might not be the best, but you know, make it the best while you're doing it.
And if truly, I think this is where we get to acknowledge it doesn't make people bad leaders or employees, or it I think hopefully what this conversation is doing is acknowledging, like, we have certain personality types, and we can't force ourselves just to be okay when we're doing something that doesn't feed us, and we have to pretend or alter ourselves to make it work. Ultimately, your body, mind, spirit, soul is going to feel very unnatural in that environment. And so the bigger thing is, then we take that home on people that we care about, and somehow that unhappiness or that feeling stagnant or stuck, that energy we can then bring home to our families, or our friends or our community. And so that's why I want people to think about that bigger picture of, uh when we're in a situation that we're not feeling challenged, we're not growing, we're feeling stuck, stagnant, unseen, and not validated, whatever it is, that ultimately that impacts how we behave with those we really care about. So just a bigger thought there. So I think, so this is where I think I want to ask you, like, so you think about your style, like the way you like to lead, or the way, what is it? And this is like everybody listening, what kind of person are you in your life, in
I
terms of where you take leadership, how you do things, and the momentum you like to move at?
So definitely lead by example. I definitely am a person that will be the first to do it without being usually asked. If I'm asked, I'm always up for the task. I don't push it on anybody. I never say that that's not my job. I
Hmm.
if it's something that was brought to me, I usually go for it. You know, like if someone's like, "Well, I'm looking for Tom to do this thing," and I was like, "Well, I'm here. I'll do it for you, or I'll do. You know, I'll help you." It's
What
the
kind of
goal.
energy do you bring, like, to your life and how you do things? And this is everybody, like, think about that. It sounds like you're a team player.
Yeah,
It
I
sounds like you like to take initiative. You're not fearful of being, kind of getting into something that's totally new, and you don't push it off out of fear. You embrace it and think, well, I'll figure it out after, right?
right.
I don't know how to do that. And so to me, that's the kind of give and take of being, like, a bit of improv. And so
Oh, for
that's
sure. I
there
let me
you
s-
go. Okay.
let me say something about that. So I have been in some sort of avenue of performance, and I'm really this really just kind of clicked with me while we were talking.
Hmm.
When you're a performer, like because I used to do
Yep.
recitals.
Hmm.
I've done several theater plays. I've been on the radio. I've uh,
Right.
all
So
sorts of stuff on resume.
you know how to get into character.
But the thing is, once you're out, once you're out on that stage and once it's go, everybody's watching you do what you do. So you're on, and whatever you do, everybody's watching. So that's how I kind of approach everything. Well, what are you going to do when everybody's watching? I might
There's no plan B.
no, you have to go for
You
it.
have to go with your plan A.
And you know, hopefully I did all the rehearsals right. Hopefully I have everything memorized, all the information that I need, and I'm out there. I've gone out in front of thousands of people and I had to deliver something, and there wasn't a stop button. It's like
They're
you have,
right.
you know, this is an hour of this. We have to do this, and your preparation is gonna show when everybody's watching. So what I usually do is I approach it. I'm just like, well, what would I do? Be kind, be kind to everybody, be aware of my surroundings, and you know, Yes, and what are we? Well, we can do that, and what else are we doing? What am I bringing to the table? How I that's how I try to approach everything.
Right. Okay. So when you think about yourself in a functioning well with either a group or what do you need then to be able to be the kind of person you are?
I For me, it's a foundation. I just really it's studying. It's being I I try to be sympathetic as much as possible because listening for me is my biggest tool. I have to listen
Mhm.
to people, whether it's working at my job. I have to listen to what people come in for.
Mhm.
I don't just tell them what it is, or like when I'm in a performance, I have to listen to how the line was delivered so I can respond. I don't just listen to react. I have to be like, well, how did this person say this? So I can, you know,
Right. So it's like
interact.
we're all, and I would say we're all under this performance pressure. We all, in general, we know, and sometimes we call them masks. We put on a certain face. We know how to get into character. We do it. That's the thing where That's probably why we struggle with trust issues, or really wonder if somebody's genuine, because we know how quickly we can get into a character that presents us in a certain way, and that we can function based on our ability to stay in character. And I think that's kind of the take home message of, you can't live your life and do like so much of your work and try to fit in being character. It just is not sustainable. And
Yeah.
so if you're not in an environment where you can genuinely be you and you're in character, that's probably where this internal conflict comes at the end of the day, is the inconsistency of our authentic self saying, you're in character, you're exhausted, tomorrow you got to wake up and get back into character. And how long can you stay in character?
It's when you start looking at the clock and not
Okay.
focusing on the work.
Well, and that is a really beautiful point, because, since I've started my own business, since I'm doing what I'm doing, I feel like I don't have enough time here. That's how fat I've never just looked at the time and thought, things are barely moving, or gosh, I can't wait for the, and that's a difference, that I had to eventually know that for my personality, I have to be in a stimulating environment. And if I couldn't find somebody or an organization that fit that, I had to create that. And that comes with fear, that comes with unknown, that comes with a lot of guessing and improv and trying to make things work. And I think that's still part of what fits my personality, is this constant need to uh do things that I'm unsure if it's gonna work or not. Yet being creative enough and keeping it interesting, where I'm still willing to try because I'm in control of it now. I can't I can't blame somebody else, or I can't. I've been there, and so I think that's a really perfect example of, and that's with anything, not just with our jobs or if we're looking at the clock and we're just counting down whatever we're doing, right? If you're in a date, or if you're and you're just like, this is never going to end,
Oh man. I
right?
really I could be doing something else. If you start asking yourself that, that's when it's time to maybe wrap it up, Like I hear about it's like when they say when players retire. They're like, I just woke up and I wasn't having fun anymore. I knew what was gonna happen. The practice was gonna be practice, the plays were gonna be the plays, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I
Mhm.
thought of other things to do.
And one important thing to remember is there are so many people that that's their personality. They want predictability, they want structure, they want stability. They that's it fits their personality. So they're not, one's not better, or, these are just accepting that there are people that are made for certain areas and they fit into these, and that doesn't make them not creative, that doesn't make them not, that they're not leaders or they're not ambitious. Because in a lot of ways I think we people who tend to want to live on the edge are constantly risk and be constantly in action and movement. I think there's a lot of looking and going, gosh, why can't I just be satisfied? Why can't I be really happy with 8 to 5? Why can't I just take a standard lunch? And you look at people doing that, and I do think there's envy of, I wish I could fit into that nice structure. And at the end of the day, enjoy my life, or, and it doesn't work for everybody. And I'm sure it's opposite. Some of those people with structure look at these people kind of live with more chaos or risk taking, and kind of wish they had a bit more of that. So it's more in embracing and knowing that whatever we're structured, it fits us, and so it's no judgment or that there's a better type of personality. I think it's more finally getting to accept that there's some real differences here between the way that some of us function in the world, and how to, in a world that's really not created for to have this kind of,
Right.
this difference.
And like, recognizing that, not bringing like that stuff to the table is like when I'm like we were talking about in the earlier here, I
Hmm.
was being toxic, but I was fortunate enough to recognize it, and respecting others and showing up and doing my best, because if anything, it shows respect to my coworkers that I'm not gonna, make their day worse, or, any kind of less than what they were expecting.
Well, and that's, I think, ultimately, like, the take home message of what we're talking about today. And for it's always this this self reflection, just, and to have that insight, it is rare, without doing a lot of work, or but it's those who have like this higher emotional intelligence, and being able to really sit and take a look in the mirror, and ask themselves these tough questions and answer them honestly. That's how you start to develop insight. And if that's the challenging thing for most people to do, and if we take away the shame in doing that, and noticing where we're struggling, and make that part of our regular process, we're gonna do, we're gonna start changing things in society in a good way.
Yes.
So thank you for checking in. That was a beautiful conversation. P.S. Take a look in the mirror. We don't always like what we see, yet that's okay.